Every now and then the music industry gets a breath of fresh air, and most recently, that air was convulsed by Scottish musician and seemingly part-time comedian Lewis Capaldi. Lewis first entered the scene back around 2017 with his first big hit Bruises rising to success. His talent continued to shine through the release of his first album, Divinely Uninspired to a Hellish Extent in 2019, alongside his often humorous and open and honest personality, shining through in interviews and a brief personal spat with Noel Gallagher that captured the hearts of many. And prior to the release of his second album, Broken by Desire to be Heavenly Sent due on the 19th of May, Lewis took a brief step back from the limelight in order to reground himself and take charge of certain aspects of his life that he felt he had neglected, such as his physical and mental health. So, in the build-up to the new album, Lewis's Netflix documentary, How I'm Feeling Now, has been released, providing us an insight into what happened after the release of his first album and subsequent events that led to his brief hiatus. Now, just a word of warning, the documentary and subsequent review does deal with issues regarding mental and physical health, which I understand can be triggering to people, so just proceed with caution. To give a brief insight into what happens in the documentary, it picks up straight as the pandemic has happened, forcing Lewis to return to his mighty hometown of Whitburn, situated just between Edinburgh and Glasgow, with him reflecting on the way his life has exploded after the success of his first album, throwing back memories to him performing in clubs and pubs alongside the release of Bruises and the original success that gave him. The documentary moves on to reflect Lewis continuously aiming to work on a new single for his album, and the pressures that come with this, showing various studio sessions and meetings with both other musicians and individuals from the business side of the music industry, where talks might seem nice in their nature, but they're more concerned about him getting a shift on and making some music, rather than being concerned for his well-being in a lot of this time. From this, Lewis is quite open and honest in this documentary, as he always has been in interviews, expressing his feelings around having imposter syndrome, and that the more success he gains, the worse he feels, as he's worried he'll never live up to his previous achievements. And you can see this regularly being reinforced with conversations he has with people in the marketing side of the music industry, always bringing up the success he had with someone you loved, and urging him to just write another song like that, completely ignorant to the effort and emotion that goes into Lewis's writing process. And such pressures lead him to go to LA and write with completely new people, as Lewis expresses how he thinks maybe writing with the best writers alongside new individuals might speed things up a bit, but it seems relatively unsuccessful and once again just piles on more pressure, alongside inducing more anxiety from removing him from his home comforts. Throughout the entire documentary, we also see Lewis's physical anxiety develop and continuously get worse as his lack of production for the new album continues. He speaks about how his twitch puts him in physical pain alongside horrific experiences he has with panic attacks, where his mum sometimes has to speak to him on the phone for several hours just to calm him down and make sure he's okay. Such issues lead to his family not only being concerned but also frustrated with him, questioning if putting his health at such risk is actually worth being in the music industry. From the increasing pressures put on Lewis and the decline of both his physical and mental health, this leads to him taking a break and postponing his album, returning several months later seeming both happier and healthier, reflecting also upon his diagnosis of Tourette's syndrome, and pushing ahead with the single Forget Me on the upcoming album, and all in all seeming more happier and more hopeful for the future, performing back at his first show and a brief appearance from his good friend Niall Horan. All in all, I thought the documentary was pretty well put together and did feel like an incredibly open and honest take on someone who clearly struggles being in the music industry when it comes to the pressures and anxieties that are induced as a result of performing and achieving success at such a high level. In my opinion, I feel those in the public eye who have achieved success to such a high level and then be honest and open about the issues they face with their health as a result of said success is only ever a good thing, as long as it comes from a true and earnest place. I'm reminded of several other figures in the industry who have been the same way, about the issues they've faced in their time, such as Justin Hawkins or Sam Fender, who both have stated that at certain times you do need to take a step back to ensure that you're still around and you don't end up in a horrible situation. I think we all know that burnout occurs with writers, but when it comes to more serious situations, such as anxiety manifesting itself to affect your physical health, leading you to be in regular pain, it's an area we're a bit less familiar with. And when it's coming from someone who has #1 singles and an incredibly successful debut album that is still regularly played on mainstream radio, it somehow comes across as quite relatable and a fairly brave move to make, as certain marketers in the music industry would steer clear of artists who are doing such a thing, or at the least drop them from their record label. I think if I was to critique the documentary in any way, it would mainly be around the complete tone shift that occurs once Lewis has returned from his health break. It seems as if everything hits rock bottom and then suddenly he's back and everything is good and on the up, and it's all sunshine from here. Now, I know that's not truthful to the actual situation, and there clearly is a notion towards the fact that Lewis still has a lot to work towards, but it kind of caught me off guard that suddenly he's back and all good and didn't focus too much on what may have happened throughout that period he was away. However, for me, that's only a minor issue, as the rest of the documentary is so incredibly open and goes into detail about personal issues. I think to hold back on that time period was probably deserved. I thought the documentary also highlighted some nice moments, such as when Elton John emails Lewis to tell him he shouldn't feel like an imposter, as he's clearly an incredible talent and has already achieved so much and is a great person in general. Now, whilst that doesn't obviously solve everything, it's still a nice touch to see other legends like Elton John getting in touch and trying to console others in the industry through a rough time. It's also another highlight when Lewis gets a Domino's delivered to the train and says, if you want this lifestyle, all you need to be is famous. The documentary was also great at providing information as to the true meaning of some of his songs. I've seen a lot of interviews with Lewis, but I still had no idea that Before You Go was about his auntie passing away under tragic circumstances when he was younger, and really made the song feel 10 times heavier once you heard his mum and dad speaking about what really happened and how Lewis was able to portray his feelings through his music. Overall, I'd say How I'm Feeling Now is a much needed injection of honesty into the music industry, and really does highlight some of the issues surrounding mounting pressures onto an artist who is clearly struggling, just trying to get them to push out a single. But it's also a great way to create an open and honest environment for those who need it and are dealing with issues in either their physical or mental health that they may be neglecting. I think people like Lewis Capaldi, whether you like his music or not, are great role models when it comes to show no matter how successful you get, there will always be issues in life and that you need to reach out and ask for help at times in order to ensure that you stay on the right path. It takes a fair amount of bravery for someone to really put themselves in the limelight and highlight the worst time of their life, in hope to help other people understand that things do get better. If you're a fan of Lewis Capaldi, music, or generally feeling like you're struggling with something yourself, I'd really suggest watching How I'm Feeling Now. I've also linked Netflix's Want to Talk About It page below in the description, for those who feel they might need some support with some of the issues that we've spoken about today. Overall, I'm looking forward to Lewis's new album on the 19th of May, and can only wish him well until then. I hope everyone's good, and remember, always reach out if you aren't. But on that note, I think I'll say ta-ra for now, and I'll see you later.